She flowing, the blood is flowing.
Disney Plus and Marvel Studios gives us a Halloween treat with Werewolf by Night. Are we howling at the moon over it or taking the silver bullet? Stay with us and find out. Welcome, friends, to this special 3324 podcast Halloween edition of the special release by Disney Plus of Werewolf by Night, which is a kind of a one-off 55-minute kind of Halloween treat. Right, Eric?
Yeah.
It's kind of a neat thing. It's something different from Marvel.
It was. I didn't know what to make of it. The first time I saw it, watched it twice. But the second time I totally dove in and appreciated what they were trying to do there. And I really nice little callback to the whole like 70s special presentation for television thing, the with new the logo. Yeah. First thing for Marvel. That's hopefully there'll be more of that.
So some interesting and different things that Marvel is trying. So before we get into that, of course, we got to do the stats. There are just a few little stats. There's some tiny ones. It's small,
already
small stuff. A little bit.
Yeah.
Just the basic stuff. This was released on October 7th on Disney Plus. So we're a couple of weeks in. So we're going to go spoilers. This isn't like fresh out of the gate. So hopefully you've had a chance to watch it. And it's not like a spoilery type thing anyway. Directed by Michael Giacchino. And yes, that is how you pronounce his last name. Because I watched a video of him saying, I'm Michael Giacchino.
Giacchino.
Because I was going to say Giacchino.
I always said Giacchino.
Ciccacciano. It's Michael Giacchino. So he directed it. And normally you hear him under music by Michael Giacchino.
Yeah.
He's a very prolific composer
of television.
In the MCU TV. He did the score for The Batman with Robert Pattinson. So he's dipping his toe into directing. We'll talk about that a little bit too. The cast. Gail Garcia Bernal as Jack Russell. Now, Jack Russell is a breed of dog.
Yeah, I picked up on it. I'm like, really? This is the character's name?
That is really the character's name in the comics as well. There's two Werewolves by Night. There's two different ones, but Jack Russell. You've got Laura Donnelly as Elsa Bloodstone and Harriet Sansom Harris as Verussa Bloodstone, who is the stepmother of Elsa Bloodstone. And then I just want to make mention of Carrie Jones, who has made a mention in our Book of Boba Fett series. Yeah. He played Chrysanthemum. The massively large Wookiee with a temper to match in Book of Boba Fett. He does the practical portion of the Man-Thing, which was a surprise and delight to see.
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely.
In this special, it's kind of like you said in the beginning. It opens. It's kind of a throwback to those CBS special event. The spinning logo. So it really throws you kind of back to almost something that you're watching on TV back in the 70s, but was filmed like an old film, right? They're already kind of setting the table for something different, Now we've talked, just to get this out of the way, we've talked about Marvel fatigue, and we're going to kind of it's time to kind of put that into the past. People I think at this point are going to decide or not feel. We used to feel we have to watch every Marvel show that comes out or every Star Wars show that comes out. I have to watch it because they're putting it out, right?
Right.
And that's what you kind of get tired or I don't like this. So I think we're kind of past the point of, okay, I'm just going to watch the things that I want to watch. The things that seem interesting, I'm going to watch. And things that aren't, I'm just going to pass over it. We're not obligated to it, but we kind of felt that way, which led to it. So now I think we're at the point where these different properties come out, and we can decide whether or not we want to watch them.
Well, much like the comic books too. I mean, I didn't read every hero, every comic, and they're actually tackling a lot of different demographics. So, like Ms. Marvel, I'm not a teenage girl, so no. I mean, I watched a few episodes. I think it's good. I think it's good for what it is, but it's targeting that kind of demographic. So it does. I don't have to like it. You know what I mean? So I don't have to be. Praising every little thing they do because it's not targeting me, So we can pick and choose. Right.
And I'm not an Egyptian god, and I didn't care for Moon Knight. So, there it is. I like Ms. Marvel. Go figure. So I don't know. So this is a total. It's a self. And here's the thing, also, which is a question I want maybe for you to answer at the end.
Okay.
This is something new for Marvel. This is a one-off. 55 minutes, so it's less than an hour. So it's a film. It's a short film. or an expanded short film, as it were. At the end, I want you to give me your opinion if you think this is something viable, as opposed to, or you could tell me now, is this something viable as opposed to every character has to have a series? You know, we have to do a Hawkeye series. We have to do all these ones. Everyone's got to have a series. Or is this a much concise or better way for certain characters to tell a story with a one-off? Because this is like like if you're going to relate it to comics.
Yeah.
Most characters that had their own series or runs would have an annual, which would be a double-sized issue, or they would have a giant-sized big issue, and that's kind of what this is. This is kind of like a giant-sized issue of a comic, you know. And do you think that this is something that they should explore more, as opposed to feeling like, hey, everyone's got to have a series?
I think so. I've been a little bit more critical in recent, because I really dove into the first 10 years of Marvel and the promise of something greater coming along, these characters getting together. They're moving away from that, it seems. I mean, they are doing a lot more one-off kind of stuff. And so, yeah, I would like to see more of this happen. But it's much like the comic books, right? You read it, you put it away. Maybe you'll revisit it down the road at some point. But it's nice to have these short little things. And sometimes, maybe that it's kind of fresh air in the corridors, to have just one thing, and not have to worry about all of the sort of stretching the mental, where they're at mentally and all that kind of thing. Yeah, it is very much, back in the old school way of storytelling. And it is kind of refreshing.
I can see myself rewatching this as opposed to rewatching a whole season of Captain America: Winter Soldier or whatever it is, I
agree.
I can see myself saying, "Oh yeah, let me throw on Werewolf by Night because it's quick.
Yeah,
it gets you the story. It's a different beast to do a werewolf pun. It's a different piece. It's a different beast because when you have a series, you're stretching out, you're developing characters, and Michael Giacchino's take on this on Werewolf by Night was more akin to a Twilight Zone episode. Right? You would watch the Twilight Zone every week and it would be different characters. You didn't get the origin of each character. You were thrown into whatever was happening in their life at this particular point from, when the weirdness would start. Right? So you didn't get an origin story, how many kids they had, this, that, and the other thing. And Giacchino's take on Werewolf by Night was, this is just a slice out of this person's life. And we're just watching this. And the same way as if you picked up issue 36 of Werewolf by Night, right? And this happened to be the story, right? Like you just picked up a random issue.
Yeah.
Which I kind of like also, right? They didn't have to spend all this time on this, that, and the other thing and explain. It's kind of like, here it is. You'll pick up on it, which again is just another way of, kind of doing away with the origin stories. All the series have those origin stories.
It's everything you need to know about these characters in this particular situation, and you don't have to go. We don't
need to know.
Well, we see this in a lot of, the disappearance of the 2-hour film too. I mean, this is things like Raiders of the Lost Ark, where everything you need to know about that character, all those characters are there.
You'll learn it eventually.
You learn it, and yeah. So if there is a backstory or anything, it's told in a few lines, and that's the creative part of it. Is somebody who could condense that down and basically flesh it out and just in a few lines of dialogue, and that's that's all you need to know.
And part of it is through the character. Let's start from the beginning. I mean, this movie just starts off as classic. It's got a lot of different DNA in there. It's got the Universal monsters. It's got some of the Hammer films, and it's got some of the Corman. It's got some Roger Corman stuff, especially Ulysses Bloodstone. But the way this movie starts out, it had me at hello.
Okay.
Just from the black and white, the brooding score, that classic score that you would hear, and that kind of a thing. The soft focus of the black and white, so it's not this sharp 4K, see every detail. It was kind of a little not like blurry, but a little softer focus. So
They even threw in like the little like cracks and lines and like an old film, like
the cigarette burn when you're going to change reels.
Yeah.
But it's not retro for retro's sake, because it doesn't take place back then. It's just this story has that gothic feel to it, and what
exactly
these characters need. Werewolf by Night is a gothic character, like kind of like they also Marvel had Tomb of Dracula, so there was that monster side of things that Marvel had, and Blade, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
So I really dug the aesthetic. I was already like, okay, you've got my attention. I'm here with you,
right?
And then just the way it starts out more like a Hammer film for some. I've kind of felt that, the meeting of these people, and the monster hunters, and the main monster hunter, Ulysses Bloodstone, is dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then the butler goes over, like puts a crank into the coffin, opens it up, and the coffin opens, got like a pre-record, like he's being manipulated like a puppet with a pre-recorded thing, like welcoming everybody.
Yeah, it's almost like this mechanical thing you find at an amusement park. That was a really nice touch. I really dug that.
It was his dead body. It was just so it was just so
it's creepy and it's effective. Yeah, because it's real. It's right on set, and it's mechanical, but yet it adds to the mood of the whole thing. So it's really good.
And in addition to the black and white and throwback aesthetic, they really did downplay the use of CGI. There is some CGI, but it's not all over the place. It's practical when they could do it. Practical down to Werewolf by Night's makeup was a la Lon Chaney, a la Werewolf of London. Doing practical makeup, whenever they can. Man-Thing, he's a combination of practical, animatronic, and CGI, because he's too good to not, like, you have to. I think you've got to get him right, and like the practical stuff works really well. Like I think at the end, at the very end, he's all practical.
Yeah, the close-up shots, for sure. Like the hulking, you need that size, you need that scale. Especially when the arm comes out and it grabs him. That probably wouldn't have played as well. But yeah, when you see him long shots when he's running and he's doing all these
when he does what the Man-Thing does to people,
right? Exactly.
Which is Man-Thing is a great character. I always liked the Man-Thing, and he's not even a C level. He's like a D level character. I mean, he was kind of one of those gothic characters that was always in the background. Usually, I mean, he had his own run, but he'd be in Marvel team ups, and that's what this movie is kind of like. It's like an issue of Marvel team up, because apparently Werewolf by Night and Man-Thing are kind of like pals. Like they kind of there's an ongoing dispute about who actually ends up who keeps having to save the other. Jack thinks that he seems to be always having to save Man-Thing from stuff, but then Man-Thing in the end thinks that he saved Jack from the predicament he was in this time. So I like the lighthearted touch, but it doesn't get in the way of the gruesomeness of the other parts of the film. So, basically, in a nutshell, since Ulysses Bloodstone died, there's actually a stone called the Bloodstone, which helps mortals fight monsters.
Yeah.
It's able to detect who is a monster, and has certain powers that can do that. So there's a gathering of hunters at Ulysses Bloodstone's, upon his death, to hunt a monster, and whoever kills the monster will get the Bloodstone and then can carry on the lineage. And Ulysses Bloodstone's estranged daughter, Elsa, shows up, much to the chagrin of her stepmother, who is Verussa, who's really kind of that weird. She kind of reminded me of Alan Rickman in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, like with the masks and the hoods, and it's like, join us or die,
And the actress, she's just one of those. She's BB Glazer on Frasier. If you don't know the actress, she plays his agent's real eccentric type of roles that I think she did an episode of X-Files as well, where she was like that intensity, that real like the grin and everything. Yeah, so she was really good in this, really good.
Yeah. So the theory is, we have this monster out in this penned in area. It's almost like a little town type of a series of buildings and corridors. You kill the monster, you get the blood. We're gonna attach the Bloodstone to the monster. It'll weaken him, but it'll also make him angry. So it's going to be a challenge. And through a series of circumstances, Jack and Elsa kind of get end up together and kind of agreeing very tentatively to work together, because Jack is actually not there for the Bloodstone. He's actually there to release his friend, the Man-Thing, who got captured. He's there. Right. So he's there for the quote unquote, for the monster. And you can kind of tell in the beginning, there are some tells of all these other monster hunters that are there. They're these burly guys. They have weapons and specialties. And Jack is like this small, like skinny guy with like a suit on, and in the beginning, I'm kind of like, yeah, he doesn't seem like he's a monster hunter, but we kind of knew he was a werewolf. But it was kind of interesting that his objective was to get the Man-Thing freed, so that because they are friends and they kind of they're like traveling pals.
They kind of fool you into thinking that the Man-Thing is like this monster that's unlike anything they've ever faced, and it's it's cool that he was more or less the red herring when the real monster of the piece is turns out to be Jack. Like he when he turns into the werewolf, and that the hunter becomes the hunted, and that's, I love that twist. So that was really interesting. And then this cast of characters too, it was so great. I want to make that note of these really interesting looking people, like these hunters, and they were really cool looking. And let's give props to all the masks, the creatures on
the heads
on the walls and everything. Really, really good practical. Like they actually went ahead and made the masks and
old school stuff that you would see.
Stuff. Yeah, it's so cool.
Really cool. Just really neat. And the thing about the Man-Thing is in the comics, the tagline, like you've got Daredevil, the man without fear. The Incredible Hulk, the Mighty Thor. The tagline of the Man-Thing was always whatever knows fear burns at the touch of the Man-Thing. So the Man-Thing doesn't actually have any inherent powers. It's if you're afraid of him, his touch will burn you and disintegrate you, almost like acid. But if you're not afraid, he's not a threat.
Yeah.
And if you don't know that, you don't understand what his power is. So it was really great when he kind of grabbed somebody who was, because when Elsa and Jack kind of come to their alliance, and his thing is, listen, I just want to release the monster. You can have the Bloodstone. I don't really care about it. And that's when Jack says, because the Man-Thing's actual name is Ted Sallis. He was actually he was a victim of the super soldier serum program, where he was injected with that and then fell into a swamp, became the Man-Thing. He said to her, like, just when you see him, just pretend treat him like an old friend, and call him by his name. She's like, what's his name? He's like, Ted.
And
it sounds so weird. It sounds so strange, but if you know the comic, they really did and he looked so great in black and white. Like he was meant to be a universal monster. Like he looked like, like it was just like, he looked so great in black and white that it was just, he had that feel to him. Like he was a monster like he belonged in the 40s. Like
it's a step above what they did back then. But then you consider, a Creature from the Black Lagoon was such a cool, iconic look. But this thing is, he does fit right in.
Like he belongs there,
Yep.
And his effect is really cool when he grabs that. I don't know if he was Irish or Norse or whatever, that guy. And as soon as he touches him, the guy, the guy just melts.
Let me ask you this: now that you bring him up, did you think that was Kurt Russell when you first saw him? I thought it was Kurt Russell for sure. But it turns out to be the guy from Star Trek 4. He's the guy the punk on the bus when he's playing the music. His name is Kirk. Oh my goodness, I can't remember his last name, but he's the punk on the bus
that Spock gives the pinch to,
and he gives the pinch to. Yeah, he's like, "Screw you!" Like he's that guy. I thought for sure it was Kurt Russell.
Wow,
I really did. I thought
the guy in the beginning. I thought the narrator was Clancy Brown, and it's not.
Yes,
it sounded like
I did too.
Wow, they got Clancy Brown, and I looked it up. Like, no, I'm like, this guy sounds exactly like him.
Which begs the question: like a lot of stuff you think is Clancy may not be. Maybe this guy. It's probably this guy. Yeah.
I didn't bring up his name, so he's going to be known as this guy for the episode. the un-Clancy Brown.
That's it. That's all you need to know.
This has so many different. It's got horror elements. It's got occult elements. It's got some sci-fi elements with how the Man-Thing is, and his effect. I'm glad it was in black and white because it's just like the person glows like white when he grabs them, and you just start to see like the melting.
Right.
It wasn't graphic. It was done just the right way. Like just how he just like you felt like his giant hands, like the when he grabs somebody, and then it just like starts screaming and like and they just like melt away.
Yeah.
Really neat, and again, how they dealt with Jack. Obviously things go awry and Jack gets captured and they figure out that he's a monster because he touches the bloodstone and can't grab it, which is, a sign that he's
that's
not,
the tell.
Not quite human, part human, but not all human. And it was a great line from Varus is like, let's see what kind of monster you are.
Yeah.
Right?
So
like she's like,
she
was intrigued, like, oh, you're a monster. Let's see exactly what what are you? Are you a bat? Are you a this? Are you that? So they cage him, and it was very well done, because they just kind of build it up, and even that transformation sequence was with the shadows that was done on set. It looks kind of like it's animated, but it was actually done on set with I believe with different people, like kind of stepping in different transformation.
That's cool.
Things to show, and they would kind of be switching out. And all you see is the face of Elsa during the transformation, and it kind of like zooming in on her
with such horror.
The less is more aesthetic of we don't need to see a detailed change. Again, back in those days, it was more about the reaction of the horror that someone was portraying.
Yeah, it was because up to this point, Elsa is this sort of like unflinching, like strong,
badass,
very badass kind of a firebrand. Like she comes in and she's just obviously she's got history with this family that like she's but she's been on her own, and I almost got the impression that she was almost like I'd like the little touches of Black Widow that they gave her, like the moves, like
the fighting.
The fighting, like the same thing. I thought maybe that she was actually part of that program, that they were going to write that in, that she was actually a Black Widow at one point, but didn't need to go there. But I think the visual cues are enough. But to see that horror on her face when he's transforming, and you realize that he, maybe it's because they were working together, and that to see him transforming into this creature was too much she could take. So she was that was like, so it was real.
He's a really small nondescript guy. Although he does have he's wearing some face paint, and they're kind of like, why? Like in the beginning, one of the big guy says, why, I like that. And he goes, well, it's in honor of my ancestors. And he's like, well, I don't go in for that kind of stuff. I'm just into kill, but I like it.
It gives it that sort of tribal.
You kind of you see that he almost looks like his eyes are sunken, like kind of give him some dark circles, like maybe he hasn't slept or something. Again, just using the practical, like the good old filmmaking techniques, of not relying on let's do it digitally. We can de-age, or we can do this or that. It's like, no, let's just kind of make this film. To
do it any other way would have been probably. Would have cheapened it. You're right, because he doesn't look anything like he does in the comic. The comic, he's like a full-on hulking gray wolf, like with the long face. But obviously, if they had done that, it would have been like maybe close-up, time with like call back to like American Werewolf or The Howling or something like that, and that would have taken away from the really old school Hammer. Universal Monsters effect that he was trying to go for. So I'm glad that they scaled it back. The first time I saw him, I was a little, as I in all honesty, I was a little disappointed. But then on the other hand, I was like, you know what? No, this is cool. Yeah, because he's like really in the moment, and he's doing all these things himself, and it's like, that's great.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
It was a better choice. Yep.
Yeah, I think so. I think for this it was, right. In some cases, you need to see things, you need to be shown. But for this character, he's firmly planted in that era, that Gothic era. So it was more about the horror, and not about what we're seeing and being shown, because it wouldn't have been as horrific.
That's right.
It would have been like, okay, we've seen changes before.
It was always Universal. Always had that great history of you watch this stuff now. It's like, this isn't scary. It's the mood of it is really what sold all these films, and the tone, the mood, the lighting, the sets, in the background. That's what made those stuff.
The shadows, the candles. and they got it right on it. It has that feeling, even though it's supposed to be taking place now. We'll save the ending. Suffice to say, Werewolf by Night gets loose. Okay. And we'll leave that. But then at the very end, I'm not sure how to interpret it. In the end, Elsa gets the Bloodstone. And one of the final shots is she's sitting on a chair holding the Bloodstone, and Over the Rainbow starts playing, and everything slowly goes from black and white to color. And she actually is wearing a red leather jacket. So maybe the Red Room thing, there might be something to that. Although if she was a Black Widow, she'd be wearing black. It goes to color, and then we pick up on a shot outside of like a little lean-to made out of like sticks and kind of limbs and stuff like that. And I just loved it. It was so it was just so it was the perfect. There's no end credit scene, so you don't have to stay for anything.
Yeah.
But the way the ending of it was perfect, with the French press coffee, playing solitaire. There's like a wrecked like payphone in the background. They're arguing over who saves who all the time.
Yeah.
I guess Manthing says he's hungry, and Jack is like, no, I can't think of food right now. And then he says something. I was like, oh, sushi. Okay. Like, you want to do sushi? Okay. Like it brought that whole like, you didn't really see the like they encapsulated the relationship in literally a minute and 20 seconds, if that. Like they, he comes out because I don't know if like when Man-Thing makes his reappearance at the end, when he leaves, he picks up a cloak off the ground. You have to watch it to catch it. When he's walking over the bodies, he picks up a cloak. That's the red and black cloak that Jack is wearing when he wakes up.
Okay. Yeah.
Out of the tent, like so he got that because he knew that Jack was, when he changed back, was not going to have any clothing. So they have this relationship. They take care of each other, and it's and he's making his coffee made for him. He's got like the little one finger fit in the mug. It's so like it really made me smile. Like this one-off giant-sized issue, as it were, for Halloween. It's fun. Again, it's Disney Plus, so they don't go overboard. It's not R. I think they said by making it black and white, they were able to get away with a lot more.
That being said, it is probably the bloodiest thing in the MCU thus far.
I think they said one of the most violent deaths happens in this when the female, when the woman monster hunter gets it. She gets it probably. We've never seen anything like this. That wasn't. A lot of other deaths in the MCU are cartoony. They blow up or they do. They whatever. Right. This one. A lot of the violence is implied by blood splattering on the lens as well. So there's a lot of great techniques they use to get the point across. But it's a fun. You don't have to know anything about Werewolf by Night. You don't have to know anything about the character. You can watch this as a one-off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep. Absolutely.
It's absolutely something to. What would you give this as a score? We haven't done a score in a while. From A, B, C, et cetera, et cetera.
I'd give it an A. I would definitely give it an A.
I think so too.
I think it's I
got mad because
we use this term a lot lately, especially lately. It's like I like it for what it is. Does that imply that it's not that great? But we're just dealing with it. But I don't know. I think in this case, I think it definitely is. I do like it for what it is, and it really drives the nostalgic thing home. I have to admit, in full disclosure, I went and watched. After watching this, I did watch The Wolfman. I went, that's the effect that these kinds of things have on me. But that's a good thing.
Yeah,
it actually revisit some of the stuff that that's inspiring it. But it does its own thing too. It's like you say, it has all these different elements: the comedic element, the buddy cop thing going on, the sort of the watching out for each other. It's sweet. It had a really sweet ending.
It did.
And I love her. Laura Donnelly. I have to shout out to her. I love that actress. And that closing shot was great, with just her sitting there. She got what she wanted.
Yeah.
It's like I'm looking forward. Hopefully, we'll get to see her again at some point.
You used the perfect word. the ending was sweet.
Yeah,
it really was.
Yeah.
Like that. That's the perfect word for it.
It wasn't bittersweet. It was sweet.
It was sweet. It was just so
Yeah.
nice.
Right.
And nostalgic. Like yeah, it was just, it was done, like it was done perfectly. The touch was the right. It was not heavy-handed. Didn't get it never got out of control, and never kind of folded in on itself, the story, or got too heavy or implausible.
Yeah.
55 minutes was the perfect time. You know,
I think so.
I think this is a viable thing for some of these one-off tales. You know, maybe you revisit Werewolf by Night next Halloween with another tale, an hour-long thing. You know, like he doesn't have to. Although as early as 2001, they were developing a Werewolf by Night kind of film, but not everybody needs a film. I think this character was perfect.
It'd be kind of neat if they are starting to do something with the sort of monster verse side of Marvel. It'd be kind of neat to maybe do different story, not necessarily Werewolf by Night, but do we need another Blade movie, for example? I mean, they shut production down on that for some reason right now.
Because the director walked away. So,
but do we need another Blade film? Maybe they could do something like this with Blade the next time out, or
maybe we'll see Blade. You know, we may see Werewolf by Night in the Blade film now.
That's right,
you know, because they're going to bring him in.
Yeah.
So that would make it more interesting. You know, that would be a reason to bring Blade into this, or Man-Thing.
Yeah.
You know, bring Man-Thing into that. You know, into the universe that way as well. So
sure. Yeah, maybe Ghost Rider. That's how you introduce the next iteration of Ghost Rider. You know, have his own little short story like that, and then eventually maybe team some of these characters up, bring Moon Knight into.
I'm all for it. I'm all for it.
That'd be kind of.
I love it. I love the. Yeah, I think we both love the aesthetic and love what it's trying to do, and it's a great. Not for little kids. We'll I think it's TV 14, so I think that's probably the proper assessment. Definitely check it out. If you've got Disney Plus, it kind of snuck in. It came out on October 2nd. It wasn't a lot of fanfare. I actually missed it. I got it like a week later because it totally kind of flew under the radar, literally. So definitely seek out Werewolf by Night. If you're a movie fan, you're going to dig it. If you like classic Hollywood film, you're just going to dig this film. So,
well, I think you're going to also dig it if you're a really diehard Marvel fan too. Yeah, they're really digging deep here with some of these characters.
They're mining the depths to get some of these characters and kind of give them some bring them out into the light, as it were, into the moonlight, as it were. So that's going to do it for this 3324 podcast. This is a quick hit. We're in and we're out on this one, but by all means, check this out. It is on Disney Plus. It is Werewolf by Night. 55 minutes. It's not even an hour out of your day. We guarantee you're going to have a fun time with it. So follow us on social media. You can find us at 3324 Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And this video will also be on YouTube as well. So you can kind of see us gush. We haven't gushed in a while over something like this, but we were overdue. So the extra gushing came out. So we're going to say we're howling at the moon. We are not issuing a silver bullet to this one. We're going to howl at the moon over Werewolf by Night. And for Eric, this has been Dean asking you to please be kind and rewind.